1 week season.
1 week season, fam. La Familia. Welcome back. It is June. We have a whole month down in the best ball season. My name is Mike Johnson, M Johnson 86, your host. We are ready to rock and roll here in June, rolling along. Best Ball Plus, price has just dropped from $99 down to $89. So any of you who have been holding out, feel free to hop in, check us out. $89 only. We still have our basic package, which is $29. Basics gives you our rankings, it gives you our written work, it gives you access to a couple other things, a couple other tools and information that we have up on the site. All our team previews, it gets you access to. And then the Best Ball Plus gives you access to our premium Discord. It gives you access to all of our premium protected content that only Best Ball Plus subscribers have access to, with all the deep dives into strategies and theories. And yeah, with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring on my esteemed colleague, Billy Gableman, Stat ATL. Welcome, Billy.
Mike, it's so good to be esteemed again. I feel honored to be esteemed. How's everything going with you this week, my man?
Terrific, as everybody can see on the board. Well, you got to make a pick. All right, there you go. Ooh, look at you.
Off the board.
I see that. So both of us are in this drafting. I drew the 4 slot. Billy drew the 5 slot. This is going live on Tuesday, June 3rd. We are recording, however, late on June 2nd. So was taking a little bit to fill here. So I hopped in as well with Billy. Of course, there will be no collusion or anything of that nature. I intend to win this contest. So sorry, Billy. And he feels the same. So anyways, with that being said, I drew the 4th pick. This is like, I started a bunch of slow drafts. I was telling Billy before we went on air. I started a few slow drafts today in the $2, and somehow I drew the 4th pick like in 3 of the 5 that I started, and Saquon was available at the 4th pick in all of them. And then now we see that again here. So not really my preferred method of attack going running back that early. But Billy brought up a good point. Maybe people are scared of the Madden curse, which I laughed when Billy said it, because I think he's probably right.
I don't know. People have these superstitions, and they're going with it. It seems as good a reason as any, I guess. If you're gonna just make a pick from your gut, feel free to be superstitious.
So you went Nico Collins at 5. Obviously, this is telling me that you either clicked the wrong button or you are pretty bullish on the Texans.
I am pretty bullish on Nico Collins. I think before he got hurt last year, like, he was the he was wide receiver 1 overall for 5-6 weeks before he got hurt. He was a guy I was taking a ton in the first round last year. And I don't know. I don't have a ton of shares of Barkley, Bijan, or Gibbs. And so I feel like when it comes to me at 5 or 6 and I don't have Lamb or Jefferson as an option, like, I've been taking some BJ Thomas or Brian Thomas. I've been taking Nico Collins. Like, I feel like I'm going off the board a little bit. I'm going off the board a little bit more. Like, I think if you look back at like top teams last year, a lot of them went wide receiver in the first round. So even though we had this big push of running backs and strong seasons, it still was wide receiver. It still was kind of king. So I'm gonna keep with that approach.
There you go.
T. Higgins, 2nd round. You've got a team. I definitely have zero of Barkley T. Higgins teams.
There you go.
Got to diversify those bonds, though. That's what that's what they say on Chappelle's Show.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And that's actually for our subscribers in one of my, I think it was my storyboards. I kind of talked through my thoughts on that Bengals situation and just kind of how I'm drafting, how I'm putting teams together with the Bengals. I guess I'll kind of leave it at that. Kind of how, which players, which combinations I like to stack and which I avoid the stack in. So kind of, especially in this particular format, there was some discussion in our Discord kind of over the last couple of days on T. Higgins, on the Bengals stacks and that. I thought it was a pretty healthy discussion. Just got into some of the, how do I say, I guess the logistically how you approach some of these things and kind of thinking through all that stuff. So
I was going to say this feels like Devontae Adams territory for Mike.
There you go.
I don't have a ton of Bucky Irving. Let's go there. I feel like most of the time in this spot, it's not where I'm going. So let's get a little mix it up. You know what's interesting about your start, and obviously we won't get too much into theory or whatnot, but I think that if the Ja'Marr Chase drafter at the 101 doesn't take Burrow at 48, 49, like there's a strong, maybe not strong, there's a reasonable possibility you could take Burrow at 69. I've seen him fall into the late 6th round, more than once. We'll say. I don't want to call it frequently, but a decent amount of times I've seen that fall.
He's for sure. He's for sure falling. He's for sure falling. Kind of to the more appropriate range. Like I feel like just Chase's. So Ja'Marr Chase being the 101, which is deserved. There's a gravity that has to Burrow, to where he, especially when drafting started, because people start looking for those stacks and whatever, and they're thinking that's where they should take him. Realistically, if it was organic and just based on like kind of where these guys actually fit, like he probably shouldn't be up with Daniels and Hurts kind of in that like late 4th to early 5th round type range. But he gets drawn there by the Chase people, and then with Higgins also being around that 2-3 turn. So there's a gravity that pulls his ADP, pulls it kind of to that spot. So I mean, really, he's probably belongs to me more in that like 6th to 7th round turn. That's probably where he should be. You look at his ADP currently on Drafters is 54.3. The next quarterback off the board is Mahomes at 83.7. So I mean, I kind of think that that's kind of what we'll see happen over the course of the draft season, is he'll just kind of steadily drop. I think sometimes it's easy for people to think like the people on the back half of the draft to think, oh, I have, it's pick 64. Like, oh, he's 10 picks below ADP. Like this is a value. But I don't know that it is. I feel like his ADP has been overly inflated, and you're catching a falling knife, I guess, is kind of the analogy I'll use.
I think if Josh Allen had fallen one more spot, I would have taken him. I would have felt like I needed to do it at 44. He doesn't typically kind of slide into what would be the back half of the 4th round. I feel like on these, I know we try to keep a lot of the more theory stuff for behind the paywall type streams, and with this not being the $2, so like this, whether it even fills is a question, but that $2 contest likely going to fill in the next couple of weeks. Probably more of a strategy I think that's interesting is, with that being what I think you refer to it as a snapshot contest, like kind of trying to get a little bit different with some of your pairings. I feel like it's really, you see a lot of very common builds through the first like 5 rounds, from like the 1, 2, 3 positions for, the 10, 11, 12 holes. I feel like you see a lot of very common builds, and not just build structure, but like players. Like they're taking the same guys in the first, second, third, fourth round over and over and over again. You seeing that as well on your side?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's not really news, so we're kind of stuck in this spot where we have kind of where the market is, kind of what, like, where these players kind of settled, and there's not a whole lot that's changing them right now. Besides just some, for most players, there's not a lot besides just some, frankly, probably just like content and beat writer talk, and nothing actually tangible. Some of it ends up being true, but like it's like, let's be honest, nobody, even the sharpest people, can accurately tell the things being said the last week in May, the first couple of weeks in June, which of it will be correct. Like, they might be correct here and there, but we're all just guessing is the crux of it. So yeah, and then once things start firing up, we start getting actual information that you can draw conclusions from, that you can be more confident in. That's when things start to shuffle a bunch. But yeah, right now, to your point, there's a lot of just kind of, it's calm waters. So and most people kind of just go through, okay, what's the ADP? What position am I thinking about? Who's available at this pick? There's.
I gotcha. It's interesting. Like, I know this is probably way more interesting to me than you or even our viewers right now, but the fact that Chase Brown, the whatever that is, the 6 hole who has Chase Brown already has Josh Allen. The guy with Jamar Chase in the 1 hole took Jaden Daniels in the 4th. Like, I don't know. It feels like a spot where, I don't know. It's interesting to me. Like, this could be a spot where Burrow is available at 76. Like, I'm not gonna have anything negative if he falls to you at 69 and you go there. It's just interesting. I feel like a lot of times.
Yeah, it will be. It's funny. I spoke it into existence, maybe.
Well, I'm not going to take him, so you're safe there.
Yeah. So either the 1 hole is going to have 2 quarterbacks in the first 7 rounds, or the 2 or 3 is going to have to take him uncorrelated. Let's see, what do we have here?
I'm genuinely curious how this plays out. I feel like I'm pressuring you not to take him, and I feel bad doing that. But you know what, Mike? I know you're in it to win it, so
yeah. So
I'm not worried about collusion.
Just took David Montgomery at pick 69. Big news today from Detroit. All-Pro center Frank Ragnow retired. It's a big loss for them. It's easy to focus on the skill players. Obviously, fantasy football, that's who we're worried about. But the offensive line, the trenches, that's where games are won and lost. This guy's max clocking it, deciding if he was going to take Burrow. Oh, look at that.
I was going to say, I feel like you have to at that point.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think this is about where he should go.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but it's unusual to see him go there. I agree with you that maybe that's where he should go, but that's not where he goes.
Yeah. So, and I mean, kind of a lesson too there, right? Like he's a guy who I'm not really high on. I haven't really been picking, but everything has a price, right?
Yeah.
To the Monty pick, so Ragnow retired. Their defense should be a little bit better this season. I guess it'll be interesting. They have like one of the, I think it might be like the toughest schedule in the NFL. See if I can pull up their team preview quick, but I did the NFC team previews, and yeah, it's not pretty. They got a tough road ahead of them. I'll have it in a second here. So I'll be interested. You know, they went 15-2 last year, got kind of exposed by the Commanders. Part of that was their defense was basically a practice squad.
At that point in the season, yeah.
Yeah. But also, you know, Goff got exposed. He's a guy, I don't know that this is really relevant for best ball stuff, but I'll be interested to see if like the Jared Goff experience doesn't kind of start going the way that it went with the Rams. And Hendon Hooker was injured his final season in college, but was prior to that pretty highly regarded. I don't know. I'd be interested to see if they've been so good the last 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And so they play the AFC North. They play the NFC East. So that's Philly and Washington, both on the road. The AFC North, which is at Baltimore, at Cincinnati, and then Cleveland and Pitt are, you know, at least not easy outs. And then their three other non-divisional games are Kansas City, Tampa Bay, and the Rams. So it's kind of a murderer's row they're going to have to go through. Their defense should be better, but like Goff kind of got exposed. You lose Ragnow. Who knows what kind of shape Aiden Hutchinson will be in after his legs snapped against the Cowboys. It's like you're up at 92 here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Hawkinson, just letting them fall a little bit here. I could consider Justin Fields here with Wilson, but I'm gonna pass.
See, this is a spot in drafts I am not fond of.
I feel like if I had let Hawkinson fall to you, he would have been snapped up by you. Maybe not. Just because I feel like
I would have had some tough decisions to make.
Yeah, it's a spot that I feel like eight and 9, like rounds 8 and 9 are not ones that I'm super fond of. So I feel like I try to be conscious of making sure I don't get into the habit of like continuing to take the same guys, because there's not anyone in that range that I think is a particularly strong pick. So certainly not want to really double down on it and just continue to keep taking it.
So I do want to talk about sorry, I'm making my pick and then this is exactly what we wanted to avoid. Well, first of all, so I'm going to take Jonnu Smith to go. I already have Waddle.
Yeah, I like that.
So Jonnu, there was news came out, believe it was after our most recent Wake and Snake. But basically he's looking for a new contract, so they started shopping him a little bit. Supposedly the Steelers have interest. There's Arthur Smith, former head coach of the Falcons when Jonnu was there. He was the offensive coordinator for the Titans when Jonnu started his career in Tennessee. So supposedly there's like interest there. Obviously that would be an interesting interesting spot for, they already have Freiermuth. Their receivers are a little iffy though. But that, it feels like something that I don't know that it actually happens. Probably pretty good chance that he does fall through there. We've talked about Jonnu before, I think, but that was new news, I guess, that he could be traded. But yeah, in the 9th round, really like him there. We were talking a little bit before we went on air about Stefon Diggs, kind of a big thing right now. He is, where did he go here? 78?
Went to 78. It's a little earlier than I've been seeing him. I've been seeing him slip into the 80s.
His ADP is now 80.7, so he's probably slipping into the mid 80s. That early 8th round in a decent amount of drafts. And there was a video of him on a boat with, I believe, Cardi B is his girlfriend.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So basically there were some questionable activities, unconfirmed, but if you see the video, it's very easy to see what's happening. There's no way to officially legally prove it. But we kind of had different takes on it. I kind of will be surprised if he sees the start of the season. If he sees the start of the season with the Patriots. He did not participate. He was kind of like an excused absence, an excused "we asked you to not be here" absence last week after it happened. My take on it is Vrabel. The Patriots were a shit show last season. Vrabel is pretty hard-nosed, no-nonsense guy from the Belichick, whatever. I wouldn't be shocked if I could see both ways. He could say, hey, we got no room for this. I'm trying to set a culture. I'm trying to get things back on track. But also this is the guy who, Belichick, right? He took in Moss. He took Aaron Hernandez, right? If guys can play, he found ways to get them to do things his way, I guess. So yeah, I'll be very, very interested to see how that plays out. I am high on Kyle Williams, who was probably
He's available for me. Let's put it that way.
It was between him and Mims for me at that last pick.
Yeah, I saw just before your previous pick in the 10th round, Travis Etienne, a guy I was pretty high on last year, was way wrong on that, but had kind of seen some stuff from him on Coach Speak Index this week. I think there's been a lot of speculation around him.
I retweeted that earlier. Obviously he's been a guy I've talked about multiple weeks this year. But yeah, kind of confirming my thoughts on it with a talented high draft capital guy, Liam Cohen, backfield, very productive last year for the Bucks. So definitely think he could have kind of a bounce back year, I guess you want to call it.
Sure. Yeah, it's just kind of the time of the year where there's not a ton of news, so I want to make sure that we hit on all the things that have happened in the last week.
Oh, for sure. Oh, excuse me. Until it's late.
Interesting to see Ray Davis go 121 at the 10-11 turn. It's about 20 some odd picks, 25 picks before his ADP.
Yeah, that's the guy who took Daniels. Yeah, everyone drafts their own teams. Run your own race, they say.
Yeah. 2 quarterbacks. quarterbacks. Mike's got one.
So Jordan Love has been off the board. His wide receivers are always kind of a hot topic, or like hard to figure out, I guess. Do you have receiver that you have a preference to?
I love how you're teeing me up for this because I wanted to talk about the Packers. Yeah, I mean, I think that we've kind of chatted a little bit. Let me figure out what I want to do here. I'm kind of debating: am I going to push Stroud? The problem is, I feel like there's a reasonable possibility he's there for me, just because multiple teams have quarterbacks. But it's just like I don't know what I gain by doing it, by taking the risk. There's no one here that I want to take that I feel like is such a low possibility of being there in 8 picks. I just don't. I think that that's something that's important to do. Like, hey, it's nice to look ahead and see, okay, hey, the 1, the 2, and the 3 both already have 2 quarterbacks. So it's unlikely that any of them are going to take him. And you have no Houston players, so like you ain't going there. But it's just like, what am I gaining? And it doesn't mean he's not going to go, but what am I gaining? There's no one here that I'm like dying to take that I'm not sure is going to be there at 149. So I think that that's something that I feel like goes underappreciated or underlooked at.
Yeah, like trying to push the value sometimes too far, and it's like at what, like
for what expense? Yeah, what are you gaining? Although I do really love Braylon Allen, so I hate seeing him go there at 145. I feel like that's a guy probably got an ADP around 160. So typically a guy that I see. I love that you took Romeo Doubs, trying to get me back on track to talk about Green Bay wide receivers. I need a running back here for sure. Let's go Garenda. I have a ton of shares of him. Yeah, I mean, we're going to see Christian Watson probably not see the field maybe at all for Green Bay this season. Obviously, they used high draft capital on Matthew Golden. So I'm kind of expecting him to probably fill in to the Christian Watson role, be on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. I think Jaden Reed, who's a guy that I actually took, I want to say in the 7th round in this draft. Yes. I feel like he's the most efficient with his time on the field, but he's generally a slot guy, more on the field in 3 wide receiver sets. I feel like Romeo Doubs is the most likely guy to be on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. And he's a guy that typically goes around pick 150, 160. So, you know, to me, there are worse picks in the 13th, 14th round. I don't know that he's got 25-point upside, as I think you and I chatted about. But, you know, I think he's a guy I don't mind taking shots on. What about for you when we talked about Green Bay? How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So, again, I did the team preview for Green Bay, and what was interesting with them last year is I believe they finished 11-6. They were 1-5 in their division. They lost to the Bears week 18 when it was weird because they kind of had they had locked in their playoff spot. They could only move up to the 6th seed, maybe. They were mostly locked into the 7 unless Washington lost. So it was a spot where they like kind of half-assed it, where with like they didn't rest their players, but they didn't play them the whole time either. Anyways, they ended up losing to the Bears at home. They lost twice to the Vikings, twice to the Lions, and once to the Eagles. That season opener is in Brazil, I believe. So the rest of their games, though, they were like dominant. So, you know, they lost to all their losses, basically. If you wipe out that week 18 game, all their losses were to the top 3 teams in the conference, right? The Lions, the Vikings, and the Eagles, Super Bowl champion, eventually Eagles. That's who they lost to in the playoffs as well. So, really they lost 6 games to 3 teams. Like there was 3 teams that were just like better than them.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about that to me is what you think about this team. The way it played out, they dominated in those games to such an extent that more or less they were able to be so run heavy and stick with what they wanted to do and control games. So that obviously had a big effect on Jordan Love and on all the receivers. Jaden Reed, actually, he's a guy who I remember this from like DFS stuff. He had a huge game at season opener against the Eagles. They were having to throw a bunch. It was, the pressure was on. He had another big game later on in the season. It was their next loss. I gotta pull it up here so I don't misspeak.
You're on the clock, just FYI.
Yeah, he had 27 points. It was against the Vikings at home. They fell behind big early on.
I thought we were going to see you take Brenton Strange there.
I considered it.
Yeah, I'm debating if I want to use a pick. I feel like I don't have that luxury. I feel like I need more.
Anyways, where I'm going with it is the Packers have like a lot of hidden value probably in the sense that their season, they also have a tough schedule. They have to play the AFC North and the NFC East, just like I talked about with the Lions before. Mm-hmm. So really it's a matter of how do you think their season plays out? Even their 3 extra games are at Arizona, who is kind of ascending, at Denver, always a tough place to play. They're kind of a sneaky contender in the AFC. And then against the Panthers, which on paper looks pretty straightforward and easy, but, in general, it could be a very different Packers season. They could be fighting incline. They could be playing from behind a lot. So, yeah, I think Jordan Love and his pass catchers could be kind of sneaky values.
Yeah, certainly where they're going in drafts. I mean, I feel like you see Jordan Love typically in the 12th or 13th round. I certainly think there's some upside there. And outside of drawing a blank, so I'm going to scroll up and cheat. Outside of like Josh Jacobs, like the Packers generally aren't going until that, that 7th, 8th round with Reed and Golden. So your draft capital put into them is not super high. I feel like you've got the upside for it to pay off.
And Stafford is still out there, huh?
Again, Schultz going a full round and a half early to a guy that's who I was going to take at this pick. It is what it is. I mean, I don't know that I have a single Ram on the team, so I don't know that that's shying me away. I don't know. You've got Burrow and Lawrence. I don't know that you even need a third quarterback on this build, but I certainly wouldn't hate it if you took them.
Well, that's good because I did.
You've got Devon. I didn't realize you had Adams. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and at this time in the season, like a lot of these later round picks, well, to kind of what I was saying before, like we don't know on a lot of these. It's hard to know what, be confident in some of these later round picks, in what's going to happen and how things will shake out for them. So kind of with that in mind, it's like, who we know Matthew Stafford's going to start every game for the Rams, So
Mhm.
even if I definitely would say in August I do not take him, regardless of anything else. But here we are. Reach a little bit and take Dante Wicks. Betting on those Packers receivers.
Yeah. I mean, I again, you're late in the draft here. I think most picks at this point are kind of dart throws. We've got a lot of uncertainty around roles on a lot of different teams. I think there are worse guys to take than Wicks at this point.
Let's see who else. Who else do we have to talk about here? See if anyone threw anything in the Discord. Let's see.
Who would you say while you're looking that up? I think the first round. Who do you think is the worst pick of the first round?
For this format,
Yeah, for this
I
format.
don't know that there's a worst pick. I guess the guy who stands out to me is probably Gibbs, as not as the worst pick, but as kind of the sneaky, like we saw Gibbs is basically Barkley if David Montgomery's not on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So like if Montgomery plays the whole season, Gibbs is basically worth that late first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen, I especially like Gibbs. I have him third overall in my DraftKings rankings. I go Chase, Barkley, Gibbs, just because it's easier to advance in that, like you're just trying to advance. So really it comes down to like ceiling, and we've seen, I don't think there's any player you can say other than Chase and Barkley who have better ceilings than Jahmyr Gibbs on a 1 week basis. Week 18 against the Vikings, he had like 50 points or whatever. It was insane. That offense, obviously they lost Ben Johnson as their offensive coordinator, but the new guy sounds like pretty straightforward, like it ain't broke, don't fix it sort of deal. So yeah, I mean, fairly confident in them and in that.
You're on the clock again, so
yeah, trying to just remind myself what I got shuffle here.
3, 4, 7, 3. Looking at Mike's team, he's got Barkley, Montgomery, Robinson. Yeah, probably need one more running back maybe on this squad, not a round 8 guy or week 8 guy.
Elijah Arroyo. I love Arroyo. Love his skill set.
I mean, I think that if you don't take him here, the guy with just 2 tight ends to your left with Sam Darnold, I think he probably goes at 214 or 219. So you felt like you wanted to grab another tight end. I feel like he was the guy to take and not to try to push him to 220.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I'm not in love with it. I will be recording the tight end segment for the premium subscribers, for the Best Ball Plus subscribers, within the next 24 hours. So kind of touch on bunch of things seen from the past, kind of how this year's shaking up. I think I kind of have a different take than you probably would expect.
Oh, you took my guy. So sad.
I was thinking about taking him instead of Arroyo, but I still got him.
Still got him. See, good things happen to good people.
Depends who you ask. Ooh. So I'm looking at my guys for the last round. I could take Malik Washington to go with Jonnu and Waddle. Could take Savion Williams. 3 Packers wide receivers.
Yeah. I don't hate it. I
Jordan
kind of know where
Whittington.
I'm going, but that's fair.
Jordan Whittington, who I played in DFS last year. He had a Q tag, but was supposedly he was taken off the injury report after Friday's practice, and then he was a starter, and he played like 3 snaps and took a stone cold 0. He was like 4,200 or something.
Amazing how these things live in our brain for years to come.
Yes. If I ever see him or Sean McVay, we're gonna have some words.
You ever find yourself walking down the street in Los Angeles or Hollywood area? Keep your eye out.
Yeah. Ooh, I actually might have a really off the board pick here.
I mean, I feel like you need a running back. You may disagree, but I feel like you need a running back on this team. You have Barkley, Montgomery, Robinson, ETN. Maybe not. I don't know. I tend to not leave drafts with less than 5. I think you and I maybe differ on that. You did?
No, I don't think I had any less than 5 last year.
So, let me see if I can take a guess at who's Mike's sneaky running back play. Hard to say. Don't know. Excited to hear. Malik Washington off the board at 2:30 anyway. So
I think I should just take Trevor Etienne. So I have the brotherly connection.
Yeah, go Dogs.
Could take Emmanuel Wilson.
Guy.
Emmanuel Wilson, who was the backup last year. Marshawn Lloyd's kind of getting steam. He was a rookie last year, kind of lost season to injury. Emmanuel Wilson played well, though. I think people are right now. The assumption is that Lloyd will just kind of hop back in there, but like at the end of the day, potential. What we like in players and the potential that you see from an athletic standpoint or whatever, that doesn't. Coaches don't always agree. Is the bottom line.
Yeah. I think here I want to grab another Denver wide receiver, so it's probably Franklin or Devon Bailey for me. I don't think I have taken Bailey maybe more than once, so we'll go there.
Did you make your pick?
I did. Yeah, I took Bailey. You're on the clock.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take Emmanuel Wilson.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's worth a shot.
I also like how it complements so it complements the Dubs and Wicks picks that I made. Kind of almost just like a bet on like Green Bay's season kind of going haywire. Just you would think that right now, if Green Bay had their way, right? Like at the end of the day, the coaches are going to play who gives them the best chance to win, but also like based on the salaries they have devoted and the draft capital they have devoted to these players, they are deciding, they have a preference. They would like to see certain guys win certain jobs and certain things play out a certain way. I think they drafted Matthew Golden, like, hopefully from their standpoint, like he's awesome, and they can't afford to take him off the field. Jayden Reed, very talented, has a specific role. And then Dubs or Wicks, they're probably kind of like, well, we'll see whatever happens. I think there's also taking Dobbs and Wicks together at this point in the season. I think it has a little sneaky upside and contingency value from the fact that one of them could get traded.
Mm-hmm.
So like they could settle on one. We talked about Stephon Diggs earlier. Like, maybe Vrabel says, all right, yeah, not dealing with this, and cuts Diggs. And the Patriots go looking for another decent receiver. Both Dobbs and Wicks have proven that they can have big games and make plays at the NFL level. So yeah, in that case, all of a sudden, one of them starting for the Patriots, and the other one is on the field for the Packers at a high clip, and their 13th and 18th or 19th round picks, wherever they're at usually right now. I think I took them both a little above value here. But then Wilson kind of, along with that, like I talked about, the Packers, if those receivers, if they end up being undervalued, a lot of it's going to probably be because they're playing from behind more. They're not dominating all these non-NFC North teams, basically, that they dominated last year on a pretty weak schedule. Even the schedule, it wasn't all it's not like their fault. NFL teams don't make their schedules, right? But like they played the 49ers. That was like the game. CMC was out. Brandon Allen started for Purdy. Trent Williams didn't play. Ayuk had already torn his ACL. So it's like before the season, that looks like a really tough game. And then it ends up being kind of a cakewalk. So that's kind of a long way of saying just like, Jacobs, all those touches last year. I just kind of correlating, like I talk about, I do storyboards and kind of telling a story. I kind of like how that one came together at the end.
Nice. All right, so for the folks listening in, Mike goes 3-5-8-4. He's got Burrow, Lawrence, and Stafford at QB. Running back Barkley, David Montgomery, Brian Robinson, Travis Etienne, and Emmanuel Wilson in the 20th round. Wide receiver, he's got T. Higgins paired with Burrow, Devontae Adams paired with Stafford, Travis Hunter, Jalen Waddle, Marvin Mims, Romeo Dobbs, Santavian Wicks, and Isaac Tesla. And then at tight end, he goes Jonnu Smith, Kyle Pitts, Mike Gesicki. So more correlation there with Cincinnati and Elijah Arroyo. If I had more of that Hispanic Arroyo, I could make it roll off. But
that was pretty good. I was not expecting that. I was not ready for that.
I've got to try to remain the esteemed colleague. So
there you go.
Yours truly doesn't love his current draft, but I go 2-7-8-3. Sorry, it's not loving to fit on the screen. Bo Nix, CJ Stroud at QB, Bucky Irving, Alvin Kamara, Tajay Spears, Isaiah Garendo, Justice Hill, Woody Marks, Devin Neal at running back. Really leaned in here with Houston and Denver. So I've got Nico Collins, Garrett Wilson, Courtland Sutton, DK Metcalf, Jayden Reed, Christian Kirk, Eric. I don't even know how to say his last name.
It's not Eric. It's Alec.
Alec. Sorry, buddy. The contacts want to be out.
I thought you were going to drop another Spanish accent when you say that. I don't even know if it's Spanish, but
I don't know either. My contact's got to come out. It's 1 a.m., almost 1 a.m. my time. I'm ready for bed. Devon Vele, some more leaning into Denver. And then at tight end, Hawkinson, Hunter Henry, and Tyler Higbee to round it out.
Triple H, a little WWE shout out.
Yes, sir.
Hawkinson, Henry, Higbee. There you go. Yeah.
That's the skeleton key this year, Mike. You got to have the tight ends with the H. That's the ticket.
Yeah, like we said, there's not a whole lot of movement or news or that sort of thing. We talked about the Diggs thing, kind of broke into some of the other spots where there's the potential. I thought we talked about the Burrow situation. It was kind of wild that then he did fall to me at 76 after we had brought it up. But yeah, definitely an interesting spot. I think there's a ton that's going on in terms of, as I'm seeing these drafts play out and kind of where the market's shaking out, I think there's a ton of opportunity there. So once again, if you are new to drafters, or if you haven't played on drafters, check it out. When you go, use code OWS on your first deposit, 100% deposit match up to $100. Yep, right at the bottom of the screen. In case you forget, you can just click right back here. But yeah, it's best place to play in my opinion. Cumulative scoring, eliminate the pod luck, can approach it from a mathematical and systematic way, and we'll help you do that over at 1 Week Season. Again, our Best Ball Plus product dropped to $89 now. So it'll stay there for the next month before another $10 price drop. Kind of pre-plan those just so people know and, on both ends aren't waiting out, hoping for a bigger price drop that's not coming. And also, don't pay and then, 1 day later, oh shoot, it just dropped. They don't have that fear. They can kind of see where it's going. But certainly think we're worth the $10 for the next month. So come and check us out. Billy, I'm going to let you get to sleep. Stat ATL, as always, repping the ATL with the Braves hat and repping Drafters with the Drafters shirt, which he was one of the chosen few who got their Drafters shirt after the Canadian mail gate, we'll call it. Yeah, whatever was going when the Drafters shirts were like unable to be shipped internationally. But I digress. We will let you all get out of here. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Mike. His name is Billy. You can find us in the Drafters Best Ball Streets. You find us in Discord. You find us on Twitter. Come check us out, oneweekseason.com. We'll see you next week.